Ladies and gentlemen, gamers, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is an extremely exciting one. We're going to be covering the newly revealed expansion pack and Steel Shepherd update. I didn't get to see this. I missed the live stream, but it was just posted onto YouTube, so we're going to jump into this together. But I did see the news. I saw the news all over Twitter, all over Discord, and from what I've seen, I'm very, very happy with the direction Relic has taken. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the video.
And today, like I said, we've got a lot to cover. We're going to be covering our next PC updates at a high level, as we have both the expansion pack and the Steel Shepherd, or 1.4.0, releasing in December. So we're going to be outlining everything that's coming to PC in December, but we won't be doing a deep dive on the changes, new features, or the balance adjustments today. Today is really just that high-level overview. So we're going to save those in-depth discussions for another stream. We're going to be doing one on November 30th with our developers, and a chat with our balance team on December 5th. So be sure to stay tuned for those. For our console edition players, I know you're eager for an update as well. Our aim is to get you caught up all at once to Steel Shepherd by spring of 2024. Some PC-specific exceptions aside, that means we'll be bringing Emerald Bear, Umber Wasp, and Steel Shepherd to console all at the same time. We'll have more details on that, on what that does and does not include in early 2024.
That's good news. As well. I'm happy to hear that.
So there's a lot changing in the PC edition of Company of Heroes 3 in December, so I feel like we should probably just get into it. So, KJ, I think it's kind of safe to say that update 1.4 or Steel Shepherd is our team's biggest update for Co3 this year. I'm kind of curious, what kind of effort has this taken from the team to get us to this point?
Yeah, it's really been a huge effort for the team. It's an honor for us to be here, kind of speak for them. So thank you, team, for that. Really appreciate it. In terms of big update, we've touched just about every file in the game with this one, and I'm not kidding. We're talking thousands of changes here, and it's really been a huge culmination of work that's been worked on for quite a while. Type of work that gets worked on in the background while we release 1.3.0. So again, lots of thought, lots of effort. This update's really focusing on a lot of feedback given since even launch of the game. We're finally getting to and addressing some of those things, being the look and feel of the game, the readability of the units, replays.
Love it. That's awesome.
Probably the number one feature requested that's coming out in 1.4.0. And many more changes, both single player and multiplayer. So literally, when I say every file is being touched, just about every file is being touched.
That's crazy, man.
Update. So,
and the art as well, right? Like in terms of like, some huge UI overhauls, right? Just like the visual aesthetics of the game. Right. Like you're not kidding. Like we looked into every single part of the game to just like increase the overall game quality and make things more fun and more satisfying.
Right. So KJ, I'm also wondering what sort of the team focused on now. Like where are we sort of at in that process of getting Steel Shepherd ready?
So December 5th is coming up quick, and that's our release date.
That's super quick, man.
Earlier this week, we hit hard lock, and in other terms, that means we hit our beta milestone. So right now, we have a fixed set number of bugs that we want to fix before launch, and we're burning through that as quickly as possible. So we're getting below 100 bugs now. We hope to get that to 0 very soon, so we get our final candidate or a gold master candidate in other terms. And the team, if they don't have bugs to fix right now, they're playing the game every day.
Awesome.
So it's really getting to those final hours, finding those last bit of stability and performance issues as we lock down the build and get the quality bar that we hope you all enjoy.
Okay.
And you're talking about team members playing the game. We've had some really cool play tests with some of the changes that we've made, like playing the campaign, right? Like we'd heard people say things like, "Oh my gosh, I lost a company." Like people are like surprised at like, the extra like challenge level and like, how much more strategically deep things are. So yeah, we're really excited about this.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in more detail here in the next little bit. But I'm kind of curious if we're still kind of at a high level as we talk about like what's coming in December. Maybe I'll throw this to you, Eric, first. Like what are some of your team's goals with Steel Shepherd? Like what are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so the number one goal for the team was increasing the game quality. So making it so that, you know, like visual effects are like more clear, easier to read, that things really like pop, and that like they look different from each other, right? So you can like visually read the battlefield, tell what's going on, where are my troops, where are the enemy troops. And on, you know, like other parts of the game, right, we wanted to make it so that there was more compelling decisions for the players to make, instead of like, oh, I always build in this specific way, I make this unit and this unit. It's like, well, you know, we just wanted more of the units to be more powerful and effective. So we kind of looked at the game as a whole in all these different areas.
What about you, KJ, as sort of a producer? What are your goals sort of for the entire project right now with Steel Shepherd?
My goals as kind of producer focus on release management is really making sure the team follows these gates and make sure that we're kind of holding ourselves accountable to a lot of our goals, making sure that when we hit hard lock, we meet it. We're not sneaking in little things here, so we can really kind of stabilize and get, again, that quality bar that we know you all want us to hit.
Yeah, because I guess if we try and do things too late in the process, then that can kind of throw everything off.
Yeah, and in terms of that like idea of, you know, more like reliability for the builds, we've made some like process improvements as well, because like this is the biggest update we've done, right? So we need to be, you know, careful that we maintain that quality for everything. So we've been able to enlist some of our internal resources to really focus on the gameplay and the balance aspect of it. So we've gotten more people playing the game consistently every day. And then externally as well, we've gotten some players to be able to pre-play the game and make you know, get their feedback, see what they think about it, and then make improvements and bug fixes based off of that. So we've, you know, kind of leveraging internal and external resources to make this the best update yet.
Yeah, and I think some of that initial feedback
So
that we've been
sick.
getting from players and partners has been
All right,
really,
let's
really
see it.
positive.
I want to see
So,
the content.
I think people are gonna really like what they see once we kind of get into it. KJ, I'm curious if you can talk about like how you kind of mentioned addressing some of the feedback that we've been seeing, even right back all the way to launch earlier this year. How have we tried to address a lot of that player feedback in the last few months, and especially with this coming update?
So at a very high level, like, again, we've touched just about everything in the game, but more focused. Replays was the number one thing. Like, that's been used in a myriad of ways that even we needed to understand. So replays is coming in 1.4.0. In addition to that, art has been a huge talking point. We've gone in and done a lot on the art side, which I hope the art team here on the 30th will come and kind of deep dive. I'm a producer, so I can't really give too much context, but we've completely updated our ambient occlusion system. We've redone atmospheric fog and fog of war. We've done tone mapping and lighting passes on every map in the game, including the Italian dynamic campaign.
That's sick.
We've added bloom in some areas of the game, and all of this will really like help tie in and really make the game sing. If you rotate the camera down, you'll really notice it's much easier to see the combat and see your units move around. And any more than that, I'll leave it to our team on the 30th to
Hopefully a more dark and
sounds
gritty
good.
feel, you know?
So I hear you folks at home saying, well, what about this expansion pack content? When's it coming? What's it look like? What's it called? Happy to say it. It's
Yeah,
called
this is
Hammer and
sick.
Shield.
This looks so good.
And so
I love
Hammer
it.
and Shield and the 1.40 Steel Shepherd update will be released together on December 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Wow.
So
Hype,
we'll have
dudes.
more details about this on November 30th. And today we're really going to be focusing on 1.4 Steel Shepherd. So before we kind of get into things, I kind of wanted to address our previous roadmap, because we put out a roadmap kind of outlining what was going to come in the summer and fall and winter of 2023. And I feel bad, Eric, KJ, because we kind of fibbed to the players.
Liar.
Fibbed a little bit, because we had a roadmap, but we had to change it. We had to scratch in and scribble in all this new stuff because we didn't include it. This is all the extra
nice.
stuff that we were able to get into 1.4 that we didn't promise beforehand.
I knew it, dude.
So there's a ton of really awesome, great additions that we've kind of hinted at already. So maybe we'll go over that in a little bit more detail. But before we do that, let me.
I have
see,
some
where do we
things to
wanna
say
start?
about this later.
Let's talk about the main menu and the front end. I'll show it off here in a second. But KJ, can you talk about like, you know, player experience and kind of what we wanted to do with the main menu and the front end of Co3?
So really, it's immersion, harking back to a lot of our previous Go games. So getting in there, seeing the soldier in the front there, animating it, giving it audio, bit of a soundscape.
Oh, dude, that is so sick.
So you definitely feel much
Way
more
darker.
immersed, much more in line with the brand of Company of Heroes.
Yeah.
And yeah, we really hope this theme carries throughout the entirety of the user interface. And we really focused a lot on kind of the user experience throughout all of our menus.
Yeah, I love how it like captures that like gritty feel that the game is all about, right? Like as soon as you load it up, you're like, oh, okay, you know, like this is war. There's, you know, it's serious, it's dark, you know, there's bad stuff happening here.
Way better.
Well, one thing that's probably not coming across on the stream is that the background is animated and there's some ambient noise as well, along with the menu music. So, like you were saying, KJ, really hoping that this sort of just amplifies the experience of Company of Heroes and kind of immerses the player right away as soon as they start things up.
Huge improvement, man.
Eric, let's maybe talk about the first time sort of player experience and the redesign there, because I know from some of the discussions that we've had with the team and players looking at the game in the past, we kind of realized there was some issues with people coming into the game and having some difficulties when they first started playing. So how did we try to address that with like the first couple of hours that a new player might experience with Co3?
Yeah, we updated the first couple of missions that people play, and pretty significant, right? Like we updated like the script that the characters are saying. We updated like the flow and pacing of the missions. We changed how some of the objective beats, and like we even changed like the balance of the game in those missions so that like you're not just like sitting there with your rifleman like waiting to kill the enemy rifleman. You're like, come on, like let's go. Like the pacing is tight, it's fun, it's cool, and there's these big story beats, like awesome explosions and stuff like that. Like it's a really cool cinematic experience, and I think people are gonna love it.
Cool, awesome. Oh, that's great to hear.
So the biggest thing, real quick, I would like to say about that, after reworking the first few missions to make it more cinematic, more engaging, more interactive, I really would love to see a better onboarding process for players, really teaching, and they might be doing this, but really teaching the game at a fundamental level. I think would be very helpful, especially in relation to multiplayer, because the single player experience and the multiplayer experience in every RTS game, not just Company of Heroes, is so drastically different that there is not an easy way to onboard players into multiplayer. I feel like campaign, of course, 90% of the players are solely campaign players, but I feel like campaign could be a better pipeline into multiplayer, and I would love to see the campaign community playing multiplayer more often because it's so good. Company of Heroes multiplayer, especially team-based multiplayer, is the best in the genre, period. You know, there's nothing that even comes close to as good. You know, you have games like Stormgate coming out, which could be good team-based play, but I still don't think anything even comes close to Company of Heroes. It's the best. And I feel like a lot of players are missing out on that. And you know, something like the Age of Empires Art of War training onboarding or campaign onboarding, I think would be really cool to see. But anyways, it's definitely something they could roll out in the future. Let's continue the video.
So we've got a couple of little screenshots here that I want to show off as well. And you can see some of the additional art changes and some of the future stuff that's going to be coming. Speaking of KJ, I guess we can talk about art. And maybe
wait, look at that. Look at that.
Lighting before and after.
Dude, that is a... Oh, I missed it.
So here folks can see some of the changes that are going to be coming. So I'm not a technical person.
This looks way better.
None of us are artists in here, so we'll bring someone from the art team on November.
It's way more clear. You can see like right here, there's this like fuzziness. You notice this in game when you're playing. There's this like layer of virtual, I don't know, fog that just like makes everything more fuzzy and harder to see. This looks way more clear. You know, you're looking down, you could easily identify these soldiers, right? Look at these 3 infantrymen, right? You can see each one clearly identifiable. Now on the left-hand side, look how fuzzy these units are, right? From that bird's eye view, like they just kind of blend into the map. So yeah, I love this change. I think it's fantastic. One other thing I want to look at real quick, right here. Look at that. That is a American howitzer. This looks like a little more beefy of an artillery piece. Maybe someone with more World War II knowledge can tell me exactly what piece this is, but um, I I'm really happy to see it. It looks like there's a Pathfinder here of some sort, scout. But this is really cool because USF definitely could use a little more artillery. So just that's really nice to see. Let's continue.
Improve the visual experience so far.
Yeah, definitely one of the things you're going to notice right away is the fog and tone mapping really kind of lets you settle into the scene. Doesn't
Yeah.
feel like there's a haze over everything.
So much better.
And then next, you're probably going to notice the ambient occlusion. So everything's going to look much more grounded in the world.
Yeah.
The kind of bounce lighting.
Wow, look at that,
off
man.
Of everything really kind of adds.
Look how blended everything here is in like this desert theme, like it's just all sand and fuzziness. Here, look how much clearer the contrasting is. It's huge, man. It's going to make a big difference. And everything here is kind of like improved. And I do hope that this kind of details added to the tactical map as well.
Adds that a bit more detail and kind of contour to all of our models. So it's really should just pop. But
Yeah.
again, wait till you see it in game and in action and moving.
So
We
exciting.
really hope we hit the bar there.
So
Yeah,
exciting,
not only
man.
does it look fantastic, it also really helps with the gameplay, right? Because
Yeah.
when everything kind of looks the same color, it all just like blends together in this kind of like foggy mess, right? But now that the elements really are distinct and pop, you can read the battlefield and be like, okay, there's a tank over here, there's infantry over here, and then I see the enemies over here. So it's a lot easier to like plan your strategy and just like play the game, right? Because it's very fast paced, right? There's a lot of things happening very quickly. So you need to be able to read the battlefield and understand what you need to respond to very quickly as well. So we've just noticed it just improves and it's just more fun to play the game.
Yeah, no, that's really fantastic to hear. So let's maybe take a quick look at some gameplay while we talk about some other things.
Cool.
That should be up on screen. There we go. Eric, we promised one new map in 1.4, but I believe we're getting two.
Yes.
So
Oh,
maybe
that's
you
the
can talk to
American
that.
pack howitzer.
Yeah. I mean, we want to keep.
Is that an American pack howitzer? Oh, okay. So the other one was like a larger howitzer, of course. This is a pack howitzer. This is a much smaller, more mobile. It's not a stationary howitzer like what we saw in the previous slide. So this is obviously going to be coming in the new battle group. I think. Very cool. I think this is going to be really big for USF. USF is already pretty strong, but I think they definitely need artillery. Okay, awesome.
Delivering maps to people because it's just fun to have more battlefields, more cities, more things to blow up, right? So we're like really happy with the fact that we were able to deliver extra maps, and we've had some really good feedback. They had some interesting new elements as well for y'all to enjoy. So yeah, we're really happy we're able to deliver 2 maps here.
Awesome. Yeah, and for those that didn't catch the names on that updated roadmap, this one here that we're showing off right now is a 1v1 map called Villa Fiore. And eventually you'll see another one, which is a 2v2 map that some folks might recognize from our Map Making 101 series. So we'll definitely have Will on the 30th to speak more to these. But KJ, keen-eyed observers may notice that we're capturing some of this footage using a new tool. We're not showing off the UI here, but what new tool could we be potentially using here?
For a lot of our captures today, we've been using our own replays tool, and specifically in a bunch of different kind of modes, cinematic mode, caster mode. There's a lot of options there to play with to customize the UI, to get the scenes and recordings or to review your gameplay.
Okay, awesome. Good to hear. And again, we'll probably have someone on the 30th where we can actually spend some more time kind of doing a live demonstration and answering some questions. But let's maybe talk about all things gameplay.
I love the
Eric,
skins,
I know
by the
there are
way,
a lot
on
of
the
multiplayer
ARAD.
changes that are going to be coming in 1.4. I'm wondering if you can maybe speak to some of the focus there for multiplayer with this next update.
Yeah, absolutely. So we wanted to make there be more interesting combinations, more cool strategies and stuff that people can do. So We looked at, improving some of the battle groups, like the options people weren't picking as much. We looked at some of the core faction mechanics and making those more useful and powerful. And then also just with like the units, right? Like we wanted there to be more powerful and effective choices for players when they're playing the game and choosing which units they want to add to their roster. So yeah, we have a lot of really nice, really fun changes that y'all will be able to check out. And yeah, I think everyone will love seeing Jason and Darren on the future stream. Give all the juicy updates for that.
Yeah, of course. So like we were saying at the start, on December 5th, the day that the update comes out, we'll also be doing a live stream with Jason and Darren from the Balance team, so we can go over some of those multiplayer and single player balance focused changes. But yeah, I'm sure folks are seeing a lot of juicy details in some of this footage here already.
Interesting map.
Someone spotted the pack howitzer from the U.S. forces.
Okay, yeah. So it is a pack howitzer.
Yeah, KJ, I'm curious if you had any thoughts on some of the changes to multiplayer that are going to be coming with the December update as well.
A lot of my thoughts are just the excitement over the Hammer and Shield pack coming, and a lot of the changes for players like myself, matching a lot of my play style in those new battle groups.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to see how those play out in multiplayer.
Awesome, cool. Let's maybe talk about the challenge system, because I know that's been a system that we've gotten a lot of feedback on. I know it's caused some frustration in the past. So KJ, what are we doing with the challenge system sort of overall to make that experience better for players?
Yeah, lots of feedback on challenges. We know that it wasn't really matching our intentions with our kind of meta gameplay. Bless you. And
I was like, how do I take my mic off?
So we really hope challenges now don't kind of interrupt the meta or what you want to play, and a more of a supplement or a driver to play that one more game to get that challenge complete. This will help when spending merit on the new battle groups. So
yeah, some of the challenges were like really challenging, right? Where it's like, oh, you have to play for like hours and hours just to be able to like complete them. So the idea is, you can just show up and play a match or two and you'll be able to complete the challenge.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing with challenges too is like, don't make challenges that are going to incentivize you to play the game in a really weird or awkward way that is not constructive. You don't want to have challenges that are just like deviating completely away from, I don't want to say the proper way to play, but a fundamental way to play. I feel like challenges should be incentivizing you to learn the game, to try new strategies in the game, to be able to quickly and easily achieve things on a daily basis without that grindiness, that grinding feeling, like they're alluding to. So I'm happy to see those changes coming.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see these changes come through, and we'll talk more about why in the next little bit here. But again, we don't want to leave our single player focused friends out without any additional news. So we do have. Let me switch some campaign footage here really quickly.
Oh, cool icons,
Eric,
man.
I would say like the dynamic Italian campaign map has seen almost an entire overhaul. It's kind of tough because I want to do it justice, but there's almost too much to talk about. So we'll have someone who's worked on those systems on the 30th to speak to that a little bit more. But what have we done with the campaign map and that single player experience? Because I just feel like it's just an astronomical amount of work to sort of change what that experience was like.
I mean, it's hard to do it justice, even, just like talking about, because there's so many things that got changed all over the place with it. But sort of like the most important or like key changes for like your moment to moment experience is now when your units bump into enemy units, you no longer have the choice of, do I fight a skirmish or do I go, I just have the auto resolve type thing happen, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're on the open field and the units run into each other, they just take damage. And the amount of damage that's done is dependent on what type of unit you have. So this really adds a lot of like strategy to it, because if you have infantry and the infantry have they'll have like bazookas and stuff, versus you're fighting an enemy tank or armored unit, then you'll be doing extra damage to them when they're fighting. But if the enemy has artillery, then they'll do extra damage to your infantry, right? So like scouting is really important, because you need to know what's ahead and what are going to be the challenges, how am I going to be able to respond to it. And the health resource is very important on units now, because if your unit gets low health, you can't just keep fighting skirmish battles to keep it alive.
Right.
It's dead, right? And you're giving up the resources and like the veterancy and stuff that you've advanced on that unit. So you really don't want them to die, right? And we've done other big things like veterancy now matters a lot when you're fighting the actual skirmish battles. So the skirmish battles will happen when you go into a town that has an enemy unit, because it's occupied. So it's like now you're throwing down, you're fighting the big battle, right? And if you or the enemy has veterancy, then it allows extra resources and like extra buildings. So like it really helps scale up the challenge later in the game when you're trying to fight these veteran 3 enemy units. You got to be really careful with taking those engagements.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I found when I was playtesting it is just how much more valuable all your units were on the map, and how much more integral they were to ensure that you succeed like moment to moment and advancing across Italy, like utilizing your naval units and your Air Force units. It all just kind of like feels like a much more cohesive and better experience.
Yeah, and it's very it really captures that strategic feel, which is what you want. You want to feel like you're the general and you're looking at this map and you see these pieces and you're kind of like sliding them around the battlefield. And because the health resource is so much more important now, right? Like the more health a unit has, the more damage it'll do to enemy units and vice versa, right? So if your guys are all weak and you see a full health enemy unit rolling in, like this is a situation. You have to deal with it. And we have all these cool tools that you can use to deal with it, right? You're like you're talking about the naval, you can like use a bombardment on it. You can use special abilities, right? Like you have ways to respond to this like new threat. So it creates a very interesting puzzle for players to solve.
And I think that's the most important point. Look, I'm not a campaign player. I haven't played this dynamic campaign. Maybe I'll do it in the future. But I feel like, and this is coming completely from a dynamic campaign newbie, so take this with a grain of salt. But my take on this is that part of the difficulty in these type of games is decision making, right? Having that optionality and needing to make decisions, and there being repercussions for decisions you make. And they've kind of alluded to that, like the positioning of your units is much more impactful now, because if you're not scouting, you're not getting the proper information. Your unit moves across a road where there's an enemy. Let's just say an enemy anti-tank or enemy company, you're going to take damage there. And that's a consequence of the lack of scouting and the improper position, quote unquote. So having options, I feel like, is part of the difficulty. And then, of course, I do think these games should be difficult. There should be options. It should be dynamic, as the name would suggest. And I really hope that there's a lot of opposition as well in these, because if they are very difficult on the higher settings, I feel like that's going to be very engaging for players to want to replay. And yeah, I'm excited to see that, and I hope campaign players are looking forward to this.
Yeah, and I think like overall, we just tried to introduce a bunch of like quality of life improvements. Like one of the things that we just showed off in that clip there was the ability to speed up unit movement, so you can like have either the enemy units move faster or your own or both. KG, I'm kind of curious, what are some of the things for you that are top of mind for how we tried to improve the campaign experience for players?
Really, it's been the overhaul on kind of our resource management and our population. You can form a line and kind of push your army through Italy and really strategize there. You're not kind of bottlenecked choosing one strategy and being forced to kind of do it. So you can change it up. You can really react more. The AI reacts more and is much more intuitive. If you stretch that line too thin, they're going to break through. They'll back cap, and their difficulty really scales with veterancy really well now. So watch out if a high veterancy unit comes at your line, because it's going to hurt.
Okay, good to hear. So we're kind of quickly going through a lot of these things. Is there anything, Eric, that's sort of gameplay focused that you wanted to touch on as well before we move on, whether it's single player or multiplayer? Because again, I know there have been like an astronomical number of changes that have come to 1.4. So is there anything else that you want to touch on before we kind of move on to the next topic?
Yeah, so with the campaign map, overall we're really happy with also like the ratio of like battles you fight versus, you know, being this like, you know, sort of commander in charge of everything. So like the pacing and the flow is a lot better. It's like you're not gonna have to fight, you know, like three battles all in a row, right? Like you can kind of measure it out a little bit more. So it's got a nice like, oh, okay, I'm gonna be, you know, working on this high level thing, and then I'm gonna like zoom into the like this particular fight and fight this battle, and then I'm gonna go out and do some more like strategic planning and stuff like that. So we also made it that this works. This is like compatible with like the saves and stuff that you already have. So if you have a game and you're partway through, like you can just hop in and all this stuff will apply. Or if you want, you know, like a completely fresh experience, you can start at the beginning and go through everything and see how different it feels, right? So we try to keep that in mind, you know, that people could be in various states with these games and stuff like that.
Dude, the game looks so good right now.
KJ, are there any other like quality of life updates that you want to talk about? Because like even just looking at this footage here, you know, simple things like the resource icons on the resource points, or like, you know, here's a fun one that I'll throw out for folks. When you group select infantry and vehicles, you'll now have 2 buttons for retreat and reverse. I don't know if there's anything else, KJ, that you wanted to call out.
Yeah, there's definitely feedback given to us in our closed play tests, so we wanted to address that and give them that option. But like we said earlier, almost every file was touched in the game, so you're going to see little things across the entirety of the game. The
So
tac map
cool.
that you saw briefly is a good example of that. We repainted all of our maps to give it much more clarity on the
Crazy,
tac map.
man.
We made the tac map bigger and better, so it's definitely much easier to read and use. We've seen that feedback come in, kind of mimic those goals. But again, like this is a dialogue between us and the players. We want your feedback, and we want you to tell us if we've hit that goal or not. So please talk to us on social media, come on our Discord, leave or update reviews, and let us know what you think. We really think this update is a great time to come back to Company of Heroes and play it again. And even, again, play through the new Italian dynamic campaign, because it's worth a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really does feel like a fresh new experience. I know I've spoken to a bunch of the designers who were like, yeah, I can only play the internal builds. It's hard to go back to the live version of the game. So I've seen a few questions about you know, what's coming in the Hammer and Shield pack. You know, can you get into more details about that stuff? So like we were saying at the top, we're going to have another live stream on November 30th, where we're going to have several interviews with the team where we cover all of these sort of main areas of focus in much more detail. So we'll be talking about, you know, art and the campaign and replays and multiplayer in a lot more depth. And then again, on December 5th, we're going to have a chat with the Balance team to really get into like the patch notes that are going to be coming the day of the update.
Love that skin.
So I think we're kind
These
of
desert
quickly
skins are awesome.
running through everything here. So KJ, Eric, any sort of final thoughts before we get to our last topic?
Yeah, on the gameplay side, we've also made some like really good improvements to like the responsiveness and like the pathing of units. So it's like, yeah, it just like feels better to move vehicles around because they respond much quicker to your commands, whereas before it was, you know, like a bit slower. There were, you know, a little bit of like input delay and stuff like that.
I noticed that with
like,
the ARAD in
like
particular.
overall, the game, it's more fun because things are happening when you want them to happen, and visually it just like it looks beautiful and you can like tell what's going on, right? Like the projectiles, we've updated them to be more clear. Like the explosions, we've kind of changed the style a little bit, where it was kind of focusing more on like hyper realism, and now it's a bit more like looking a bit more movie and like cinematic in the presentation.
Look how like more dark and gritty and just thematic the game looks. You know, it reminds me a lot more of the previous games in the franchise. And it's so cool to see where like going back and literally, you know, it's an extreme amount of work that they're doing for this. Like every map, every little detail, every unit, every model, the contrasting, the lighting, the reworking of the physics and the effects. You can even see the artillery upon impact was like throwing up a large amount of debris. Yeah, just so cool to see, man.
So yeah, like basically we've looked over all aspects of the game and we feel like they're vastly improved. So yeah, we're very excited for people to get to play it.
Awesome. What about you, KJ? Any sort of final thoughts here?
Yeah, just really excited for everybody to see and feel. It really is a feel thing with this update. So yeah, it won't add much more than that. But, yeah, just a few short weeks, you'll be able to play.
Awesome. So
So
folks,
sick.
as we wrap up here, again, if you want to stay up to date on everything, you're going to want to follow our brand new Twitch channel here, twitch.tv/Company of Heroes. So be sure to hit that follow button so you know when we go live on November 30th and December 5th. Again, if you want to stay up to date on everything Company of Heroes, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Company of Heroes. Our Discord is discord.gg/Company of Heroes. And for everything else, you can go to companyofheroes.com. So before we wrap up, the last thing that we really wanted to show off today is our upcoming new expansion pack, Hammer and Shield, which again is going to be releasing the same day as Steel Shepherd on December 5th. You can head to our Steam page or companyofheroes.com for more information. But for now, I don't know, KJ, Eric, should we take a quick look at this teaser trailer?
Show us.
I haven't seen this
All right,
yet.
folks, you can check out this trailer, and we will be back on November 30th. So let us know what you think, and we will see you then. So KJ, Eric, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, folks.
U.S. Forces Advanced Infantry, so that's a new battle group. Rangers. Observers. There's the howitzer, 105 millimeter. Okay. Assault Infantry. Rapid Artillery. Wehrmacht Italian Coastal. AT bunkers. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Coastal Reserves and AT bunkers. So this is an Italian battle group for the Wehrmacht. Got these units here. These look like Grens to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, these got to be Grens, or I don't know if those are Italian-based units. I don't think so. AT bunkers is really interesting to me. This one has an artillery piece or maybe an AT gun, a pack howitzer inside. And then this has, what's different about this one is there's a little bit of like a satellite here. So I don't know if this is like a reconnaissance base or a defensive, like recon-based bunker where it kind of can identify the fog units to the fog of war or incoming units. I'm not sure, but there's definitely a difference between these two defensive style bunkers. So very cool. Artillery officer, love it. Oh, more artillery. Campaign company. Commandos. It's all campaign. I think. I like him. Pretty cool. All right, so that's not as much content as I was thinking. So basically, we got one for USF and one for Wehrmacht. Okay, so that makes sense to me, considering that I feel when the game was launched, it was the USF and the Wehrmacht that were the most complete factions, right? And it was very obvious that the British, and especially the DAC, the Africa Corps, were not as complete. They were not as comprehensive. They were not fully fleshed out and balanced. So I feel like what Relic is doing here is they're releasing battle groups for the factions that are already solidified. They're already well developed and refined. That's, again, the USF and the Wehrmacht, kind of like counterparts. The two factions, if you look at the two factions from a design standpoint, they're designed very similar to each other, or at least like they counteract each other in a lot of ways. Their tech trees and the way the factions were designed, very similar. Now, the North Africa factions, the British and the DAC, I feel like Relic is going to release two battle groups for that in the next cycle. So it looks like they're going to be doing cyclical releases in 2024, and we should almost certainly expect that the next release will be those two battle groups, maybe even more. I'm not sure, but I was thinking probably, if I had to guess, I was going to say 4 battle groups, 1 per faction. 2's fine, considering the amount of work that Relic has put into this. Like, I am, guys, really, really happy with what they've done. And I didn't know any of this information prior. I had no insight into this. I had my, suspicions, and I was pretty dead on with what they were doing. It was my hope more than anything else. And I am just so. I saw Sedgehammer in the Twitch. He was in Imperial Dane's Twitch before I launched this recording, and he said something to the effect of, "This update is addressing all the issues I had from the beginning of the game, and it's something we should be celebrating." And that really hit me pretty hard, because I was like, absolutely, like it is a celebration. It is a really good time for the franchise. This game went through some really rough patches early on. I don't think it was ready to be launched. If the game was launching in this state, 1.4, I think it would be a completely different story. The game would have been off to the races. But this really has the potential to unify the community, to really consolidate the game and the community together, to rally behind the third iteration of the franchise. And I'm really excited about that. Like I said before in previous streams, guys, the biggest issue that Blizzard made with StarCraft was StarCraft 2 was a completely different game from StarCraft 1. And there was a lot of political reasons behind that. I can maybe go into detail in a different video in the future, just talking about the overall RTS genre and development, in my opinion. But I really love that Relic is being so active in listening to the community. They've been taking notes, and they've been, I feel like, working on all these things behind the scenes while releasing small updates this past year. 2023 has been a year of very small updates, and you guys know that. They've been consistent but small. They haven't been these massive changes or content pushes, and I think it's for this reason. Relic has been waiting for the end of the year. They've been, like they said, like the producer and the designer said, every file has been reworked. That's a tremendous amount of work. And I think there's two different design paths when it comes to RTS games, or just game development in general. Because game development, and I'm not a game designer, but I've worked in the esports industry for a few years. Game development is a compromise in a lot of ways. You can't do everything at once. There's resources and manpower involved, just like Go, and you can't do everything at once. You just simply can't. So you have to make sacrifices. You have to make compromises. But the thing that I've always kept in mind from the very beginning is the sacrifices and compromises are short term, because Relic is listening and they're working to develop everything over the long term, right? And that's the key. They may not have launched the game in an ideal state, but they're working to launch the game or develop the game now into that desired, ideal, optimal, top-rated strategy game of all time. That's what this is. It is such an honor to even be creating content for this game. That's how I feel, because it is the highest-rated strategy game of all time, and it is such an awesome experience. If it wasn't for this game, I wouldn't be gaming. I've said that before. And to see these reworks is just so cool. It's a time of celebration. Big shout out to Relic. I really appreciate all the work that they're doing, especially for an RTS game. RTS games are not as profitable as other games. And Relic obviously has a lot more work to do. But I think 2023 coming to an end here, in December 5th, we're getting the expansion that's just a few weeks away, this year has been marked by refinement, right? There's two different design paths. I meant to say this before. I kind of brushed over it. The two different design paths are: one, Relic could have said, okay, we launched the game in an unoptimal state. We're just going to start pushing out a lot of content, new battle groups, new factions, and we'll slowly refine the game over time. They could have done that. The new content would have brought people back and kept them engaged, and they slowly could have refined the game. What they've decided to do instead is the other design path, which is let's rework everything, let's refine everything, let's optimize everything, let's turn this into the best feeling. They mentioned the feel of the game, the best experience possible, and then we're going to push out content. So 2024 is going to be the year of content, in my opinion. So I know there's some players who might be discouraged, like, oh, not enough battle groups, not enough maps. all this stuff. But to me, I'm like, wait, that's just right around the corner. 2024 is coming soon, and that's going to be the year of content. So I honestly, I don't want to just keep beating a dead horse here or reiterating the same point, but great work and so excited. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions and thoughts. I pulled up the 2 tech trees. I think these are for the new battle groups. So here's the USF one. We have the Rangers here, as we can see now. What I'm really curious about the Rangers is, are these going to be like the Wehrmacht units where the Grenadier can tech into a Ranger, or is this just a call-in unit? I'm really curious to see if Relic is going to actually allow for, swapping your riflemen for elite units. Now, I have no indication, no insight, nothing like that, but I'm very curious about that. A lot of elite units for USF across the board. Okay, artillery observers. Now, this looks very much like a scout squad to me. Of course, this unit's going to have some different applications and utilities, but it's, as you can see, this right tech path is all based on artillery. You have the 105 millimeter howitzer, so there's going to be some interaction here. And we saw in the clip that this unit was coordinating with this unit, right? It was scouting for it in some form. And then ammunition storage, exclusive choice. I don't know what the ammunition storage exactly is, no idea. But you have another exclusive choice between auto fire and the rapid artillery. Super cool to see that. And then on the left-hand side, okay, we have the Rangers, medical tent. I don't know what this is. Or designate assault position. No idea what this is either, but we can speculate. Weapon training and assault infantry. So I can't say too much about these. I don't know what these are. I don't want to just start giving out wrong information, but pretty cool to see. Now, on the Wehrmacht tech tree side, we have the Wehrmacht Italian Coastal. On the left-hand side, heavy fortifications, so designate defensive line. Super cool. So you've seen this in the DAC battle groups before. They have this defensive positions, support bunkers. We saw these. Okay, yeah, so there's the 2 different bunkers. We have one with a gun, one with some kind of radar system. We'll find more about that in the future. Designated artillery overwatch. That's very cool. And then rapid fortification. So pretty easy to assume what this is. It's just going to allow you to construct much quicker. And, plant mines, I'm assuming, much quicker and all that. Call the reserves. It says like total Struppen vibes. Bulwark, okay. Coastal forces, so coastal reserves. So these are new units here, Italian units. Artillery officer, super cool. I've always loved the officers units in KO2. New artillery piece for the Wehrmacht. Love to see it. I feel like artillery in this game has been very scattered throughout the factions. So it's cool to see more standard stock artillery or even battle group artillery coming in. Coastal wall. Okay, so just more defensive. So very defensive oriented. Both are kind of geared towards artillery. So that's awesome to see. And of course, new infantry units scattered in as well. Awesome, man. So looking here, December 5th is the release date. That's just a few weeks away here. We're going to have a couple more live streams to go over. They mentioned here that they've added in a bunch of stuff, and I kind of had a feeling that they would be doing that. So we're getting 2 maps. We're getting the replay system, first-time player experience overhaul, campaign overhaul, main menu redesign, 2v2 map, unit animation polish, unit responsivenesses are going to be big. The feel of the game is going to be massively improved. Multiplayer and single-player balance, huge. Visual updates, we've seen some of that. Absolutely huge. Redesign challenges, all coming in just a few weeks, man. So super exciting. I think this is a great way to end the year and hit off the new year, 2024, strong. So guys, let me know your opinions on this. Would love to hear your feedback, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.